Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is December 28, 2021. We want to thank Rob Grant for hosting us on his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. He's definitely not a sellout.
Yeah, there you go. I'm probably right about that, maybe. I know.
Thank you, Rob. Well, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Julie Rico. Thank you so much, Julie. Where are you calling in from?
Chinatown in Los Angeles, downtown LA.
How cool is that? We've known each other for a long time, so it's really a pleasure and an honor to see you. You're looking great. Your background's beautiful. The first question is, what's the best thing for a human being?
The best thing for a human being is to give, to share, to be stewards of their environment.
That's good. Let's leave it at that. All the questions will come back around full circle. That was beautiful. What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
I've been listening to audio books lately, and I've been really enjoying that. But I have to listen to them a couple of times in order to really get the information into my head. But yeah, I think that is the best way for me right now.
Right. In saying that, you're implying that you grew up a reader. Did you grow up a reader?
I did read. I wouldn't say that I was a reader. I wanted to be a reader, but I grew up poor, and the one thing I wanted more than anything in my life when I was a young girl was a set of encyclopedias. And,
oh my God, isn't that cool?
And I would have read it from A to Z, and I most likely would have remembered a lot of it. And I don't know how often I wished I had a set of encyclopedias, but I wished often that I had a set.
That's beautiful. I love that. And so why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Well, everybody's perspective is different. Everybody's intention is different. So when you are dealing with people, you have to look at their intention. You have to look at what their perspective is in order to understand how they use information and why they need information. And the more savvy you are at sort of determining people's intentions, the better you will do in life.
Wow, I like that word. We're going to get to that, savvy. What a great word. But let's finish this information thing for a second. And that is this need or want for humans to collect information more innate or more invented? So some of these questions at the beginning say more this way or that way. I know it's both and it depends, but just sort of your hunch or your inclination.
Well, I'm reading this really cool book right now, The Dawn of Everything. And one of the things that it really emphasizes is that people deal with their environments as they come. So, the Northwest Indians, for example, had an abundance of fish. So they didn't really need to figure out how to how to hunt. So they didn't develop warfare or tools, bow and arrows, and they didn't really fully develop that. Whereas other areas of Indians and the rest of the country did. So we're kind of left, people don't evolve and get better, as we can see by our good example of President Trump. They deal with their environments, and then they react to their environments and are created from their environments. So every environment creates a different kind of person, not always necessarily evolving into a better human being. So I don't know if I answered that question.
Yeah. But I mean, just if you were going to say this need or want to collect information is more innate in humans or more invented by humans?
So we're all creative.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. We are creative in the sense that when we get information, we deal with it in whatever way. But a lot of times our culture will determine how we deal with that information.
Gotcha.
So, Trump saying, that the votes didn't come in correctly for him, and having all those people believe it. I mean, it wasn't true, but they truly believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do thoughts create emotions?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, they do. They do. Thoughts, and thoughts can sort of get you off track. I'm always thinking about Ram Dass and him talking about be here now. Be here now. The idea of that is to sort of get rid of your thoughts and not get rid of them, but don't let thoughts interfere with your peace now. And, I'm filled with anxiety most of the time, so I have to think about that quite often.
You'll love. Whoops, we're getting an echo. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Bridget Bardot says, I don't think when I make love. It's like, good luck, because you're doing this thing that's so sensual and you don't want to surrender to your brain and your thinking. You want to have it a visceral body experience. So do you think human thinking is more innate or more invented?
I work with artists, and I'm always telling people I like hanging out with artists because they are so inventive and they are so creative. And even in bed, they are. So I would, the idea of not using your mind and just using your instincts to like have sex seems like you're not doing it right. I mean, you're not doing it right. What are you talking about? You have to use your mind. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I.
I talk to someone, like I talk to someone smart, which is, usually I have an artist or somebody around me to help me think things through. And that helps me quite a lot. So I don't really act on things as much now as I did in the past when I was younger without talking things through with someone.
I like that. That's what I'm all about too, is talking. I got the question from McLuhan said, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. So
that's cool.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Can humans think without language?
Yeah, I mean, language did help humans better communicate and pass on information, but humans weren't always, they didn't evolve from the very beginning, not talking, but communicating with text or any kind of images even. So, but I have to say that I think the first things that came out of a human were images so that people could communicate with each other. Yeah. So it's almost like the creative process, creating images, preceded language.
Yeah. It's good because, excuse me, Chomsky says that language is not just words, it's tradition, it's community. It's a lot more than just words. And
yeah,
there's basically three types of words. There's spoken word, printed word, and electronic word. But what do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Well, I think about that a lot because, you know, I had an art gallery, I had several art galleries, and, you know, I was always trying to break the paradigm that sort of like blocked people from moving forward in their thoughts. And artists with their art can do that, I think, more effectively than words sometimes,
yeah.
Or books. So I'm really a big advocate of creating that secondary layer of art, visual art in your environment to communicate another level of intelligence, nuance, ideas, you know, thoughts, whatever you want to say to your life. You know, whenever I just went to my hairdresser the other day and she has no art anywhere in her place. And it was horrible. I went to my gynecologist and he was the same thing. No art, no nothing. And he takes care of all kinds of babies. You know, why would you not want to have cute little, funny little things for the kids to look at? And even I see mothers. I actually decided to carry crayons and coloring books for kids because I see mothers with kids and the kids are just sitting there. And I'm like, so I give the kid some crayons and a coloring book. You know, we need that creative flow constantly happening in our lives, whether it surrounds us or, you know, whether we're doing it, because it just adds so much more dimension to the world.
You are truly a facilitator. You're a hero, man. Giving people crayons and coloring books. That when language breaks down, what do? I give people a coloring book and crayons.
Well, little kids, the kids.
Yeah.
And the mothers was like,
yeah, well, just the idea. You give it to the mom and the
yeah. Wake up.
Yeah, wake up. I love it. These two questions come from 1950, Alan Turing. Is thinking a function of the soul?
Well, that's a really good question. So the soul is your energy force. And, I'm not religious, so I don't believe in this sort of separate soul situation that they talk about in religion. But I do believe there is a thing called soul somehow in most people. And that's like a combination of your heart and your mind working together. So, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Is thinking a function of the soul?
So, yeah, it's like your heart and your mind are connected. And so your heart is telling your mind and your mind is telling your heart. So yes, it is. It is. Oh, I can't hear you, Jerry.
Sorry. The second Alan Turing question from 1950 is, can machines think?
No. No, they can't think.
That's
I'm from Michigan, and I grew up working on an assembly line. Well, I worked on an assembly line actually at Ford Motor Company, making Bronco trucks at the Wayne truck plant. And, we were around a lot of machines. And believe me, they do not think. They do not think, and they do not care about human beings.
yeah.
So, yeah, no, they don't.
I'm from Flint, Michigan, and I
Oh,
made a movie with Mark X Farina once, and there's a clip in it that tells about when computers machinery was first used in the auto factories in Michigan, that one of the computer arms, the mechanical computer arm making the cars, killed a human being. And it was like, yikes.
yeah,
And
I know.
this was way back. So
Yeah.
that was good. And what I like, Julie, is that you really get what I'm after here. You're taking the time, that silence is okay, to think is fine, and you're being articulate. So I really appreciate it. Do you more pursue meaning or more pursue happiness?
Oh, wow. That's that's a tough question. Because I'm definitely not going to admit that I pursue happiness over meaning. I'm just not going to admit that. But when I've been happy, it's been so phenomenally wonderful in my life, and it hasn't been often. But there were times that I've spent in pure bliss of happiness. So now I'm left to, I'm older now. I think I am left more towards meaning than I am to happiness. Maybe as you get older, you start thinking more about the meaning of your life.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning more towards that direction. Definitely. But yeah, I mean, being happy is always a good thing.
Yep. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we actually creating it?
That's a good question, because I haven't always been around artists in my lifetime. And I know that when I met my ex-husband, who's an artist, he had me, I started seeing things I didn't see before I met him. Fonts, colors, details. It seemed almost like I was living my life in some kind of shroud, that I didn't see things before I met him. And I feel like a lot of people are living like that now. They're not seeing things the way that they should see them. And so the consciousness, you can raise your consciousness through art. And that, to me, is why art is one of the most important things people should support now with artists today, because it does change consciousness. It does connect ideas and people and paradigms. So you have to embrace art, embrace artists, embrace culture. And then your consciousness does get connected to, it's almost like the artists have an antenna that we don't have, that regular people don't have. And we're connecting to those antennas. And they're all over the world, and we're all connecting to them when you involve yourself with art.
Okay, look at you. You must have ESP because you anticipated my next question, but twofold. Really good, Julie. You know, Robert Williams, that underground comic cartoon cartoonist who became big highbrow artist.
Yeah.
Juxtaposed. He said, a quote I like to say is, if it matches the couch, it's art. If it demands culture, if it demands attention, it's culture. So you really gave the full range saying art and culture. But here's how you were anticipating the next question. McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. Pound was the guy who said this years ago. They're detecting and broadcasting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so that we can learn to cope with what we don't like. And you were saying how hanging out with this artist, you learned how to open your eyes and see with new eyes. So that's what artists enable us to do. They're not even conscious of it sometimes. It's art.
No, they usually aren't. Yeah.
And so McLuhan's main question was, why do we, and I'm asking you this question, why do humans ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though artists are broadcasting them to us?
You know, when I started learning how to use the computer, it scared me. You know, I was like, I didn't even want to touch the keyboard. And it really literally took somebody to sit next to me to help me learn how to do it, you know. And I think that's what it takes. I think it takes an individual connecting with another individual to show them, you know, what art is, what culture is, you know, what there is outside of their world. And it really just takes one person to connect with another person. You know, there were societies where everything in their culture revolved around art and creative efforts. You know, there was a time when, you know, there were societies just they sought their food out 2 days a week, and 5 days a week they did art and creative things and traveled, and you know, and that's what we should be. That's what we should be every day, where we're just creating and connecting with each other, you know, being stewards of our environment. So you can't get anywhere without somebody's help. Yeah. You know, of course there's anomalies where there's genius people born, you know, that are just brilliant, but it's a lot better if you have a culture, a group of people, another person to help you learn culture, learn art, learn this other dimension of life of these people with the antennas, because we've disconnected ourselves from that. And you know, it's a complicated historical reference. It goes back to the Romans, where their priorities were to destroy and create legal things, environments, so that they can own property. They didn't have in their edict or philosophy being stewards of our land or being stewards of the planet. And their philosophy, because they took over so much of Europe and controlled a lot of even Egypt and all over the world, their philosophy took over this sort of like culture that existed before them, that where we shared things, where we created culture, where things were, I know they had the show with some of the art over at the Getty from the Romans, when the Romans took over from the Egyptians, the power structure. And here the Egyptians were creating this amazing art. I saw this head of a monk, and it was the most incredible work of art I've ever seen. And it was that connection between heart and soul, and there. I mean, it was really passionate piece of art. Whoever did it was like amazingly connected. And then as you went through the exhibition, at the end, there was these like completely brutish looking, primitive looking sculptural heads created by the Romans. It was like, oh, horrible. It was horrible. It's not like they made things better. They didn't make things better.
Right. You're reminding me of why I hang out in Venice on the boardwalk and watch the sunset with all the in Venice. You can't tell the difference between a millionaire movie director and a homeless wino artist junkie. Everybody blends in, and we really evoke what's McLuhan's line: the Balinese have no word for art. They do everything as well as they can. So
yeah,
that's what you really illustrated that. And so great poet Audre Lorde said, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer responded and said, you can if you expose the tools. This question is, what new tool do you suggest or that you use? And you can apply the quotes before or not. Just what new tool excites you?
what tools?
Yeah. Or it doesn't even have to be new, you know.
That's a tough one because there's new tools and there's old tools. I guess I'll focus on the new tools, which is the computer. And, but I guess what excites me the most is art.
Yeah.
And it can be created with old tools. It can be created with new tools. And I love using the computer to sort of like help artists present their ideas as well as I can do it. I'm not like super expert at social media, but I try. So I guess I enjoy the old tools for art, and I enjoy the new tools in promoting art.
Yeah. That was good. And so what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
I think the world is de-evolving, and I'm worried about democracy. I'm very worried about that right now. I'm worried about the hate that seems to be taking over people's the culture of America. I mean, it's kind of always was the American culture, this hate.
Yeah.
But now suddenly it's okay to like speak out loud your hate. I'm just worried about all the people that have been in the background and the deep, dark, recesses of American life, now at the forefront of it, speaking out and gaining momentum because of Facebook and Instagram and all the social media sites.
Yeah.
I'm very worried about that.
Yeah. Julie, where'd you get this sense of caring for other people? The way your parents raised you, or on your own, or where did that come from?
Well, I don't want to say this, but my mom changed religions from Catholic to Jehovah's Witness when I was 10. And it changed everything in my life. And it's definitely a cult. And please do not become a Jehovah's Witness, people. But I did see the world differently after joining that religion, and they were very organized, and I was able to sort of like think in their way of organization. So I think that religion just changed me to become actively caring, actively trying to help people. I don't think I was like that when I was a Catholic.
Do you pray?
Not really. Not really. I mean, I do believe in energy, and I do believe that, you put out energy, and even if it's word energy, that somehow it reverberates into the world, and somehow perhaps whatever you're saying does go somewhere. So I don't pray, but I use my energy to think, to try to make the world be what I want it to be.
Yeah.
Not that it works, but I do try.
Beautiful. If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
God does not exist, Jerry. God does not exist. I mean, he doesn't exist.
Okay. Let's move on. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
Yes. When I was little, my mother put us into a closet, and it had a half door. And I tried to, and I was, I think, 2 years old. And I had my sister like sort of put a stirrup for my foot so I could climb onto the door handle so that I could climb over to see what my mother was doing, which I came, and I was able to do it. I actually climbed over the door and I went to see my mother, and she was actually cleaning the oven. So she got mad.
Do you think memory is more a curse or more a blessing?
Well, we as humans forget trauma. It's just like sort of automatic. Not everybody does, but because sometimes it goes into your body. It's sort of like your body remembers trauma sometimes more than your mind does. And so you have to sort of identify that. Because I've had problems with that. I've had a lot of trauma in my life. And, it's caused me a lot of problems. So, you do remember. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Let's move on, because everything comes full circle. It's not so much you answer the question per se, it's that it's just a jumping off point to converse. And so, do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Evil people definitely exist. I don't think there's this evil power that's like guiding them to do evil things. It's their environment that created them. Sometimes it's their genetics. Most likely it is going to be their genetics more than any other factor. So there's usually some kind of defect in their genetics that creates this evil inside of them. But sometimes it's environmental factors. So I've met evil people.
I agree. What you said was clear. Now, this question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? I'm going to set it up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais: keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. Julie, the basic question is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to the Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Oh my God. Let me just first say, I have enemies. Definitely. I've been through lawsuits that I won and made the people mad. You have to kill your enemies. You have to kill them. You cannot allow them to torture you more. And so not physically kill them, but you have to end whatever that relationship is, completely and totally annihilate it. To do anything other than that is to prolong your suffering. But then even when you do that, your suffering can still continue. Because that enemy is always going to be there somewhere or out there, not near you, but they will be there, and their energy definitely reverberates. So I can see why everybody had these different sayings, because it's a complex idea of enemies. And for me, I would prefer to love my enemy, to embrace them, to help them. But my experience is that I can't do that. They don't want help. They don't want love. They don't want peace. They want to stay in their hate. I don't want to stay in hate.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because you brought up Ram Dass earlier, and sometimes I have to say this Ram Dass quote is, when Bush was in the president, he says, I'm having a real hard time loving George Bush.
Yeah.
It's like you just fill in the blank. I'm having a real hard time loving. And you said, I want to love him. So that was good. Let's move on. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin over 100 years ago. At the Volta Cinema, he was showing movies, and he said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Well, we have to have both things. We can't just have one thing. Nature's essential to our health. But what artists bring to basic, I know this woman, her name is Jennifer Steinkamp, and she's a video artist. And she's one of the very first video artists. And she creates these incredible video projections of trees. And, I saw one of her projections in Las Vegas with that sort of overhead thing happening. It was just, I'm in this sort of an urban environment, and then suddenly I am surrounded by nature in a way that's like swaying and moving, and the trees are, there's wind, and there's like the simulation of being in a forest with everything moving around you. It was a marvel. So, I think nature is definitely creates some sort of a feeling of a marvel to you, but art can do the same thing. So it's just important to see the perspective of an artist's nuance, that they see something you don't see. They can create something that you cannot create. And that's what's so cool about being creative. It's a never ending stream of ideas. It'll never, two ideas can morph a billion times, a trillion times. So, this sort of like, there is no, it's infinity. Being creative is an idea of infinity. So nature is sort of finite, related to science, even though there's always this constant changing of, there is evolution. But being creative as a human being is infinite.
I like that. Lord Buckley, one of my heroes, says, dig infinity.
Yeah, yeah.
So walk us through a little your career path, because I know from Michigan, working in an auto factory, there's a switch, and somehow something attracted you to pursue art. And I know you're also a poet, right? You write poetry. And so, in what attracted you? So that it's twofold question. What first attracted you to pursue the art world? When you were growing up, going to art galleries or art museums, there's some point in your life where you realized what art galleries and art was, and you said, I want to go that path, and then poetry. But before those two, you have a work ethic. And I'm always curious, I saw one of your interviews on YouTube, and you really have this drive. Where did you get your work ethic from? The way your parents raised you, from your parents, somehow this on your own? I mean, what caused that work ethic that you have?
Yeah, I mean, my dad had like 5 jobs at one time, and I think Mexican American families, in general, we just grow up thinking we have to work hard. Like, that's just who we are. If you're a Mexican, you're a hard worker. It's like, that's just the way it is. And for example, my great aunt, Elvira, I interviewed her once when I was going to college for journalism. And she said, I was the fastest bean picker in Armada, Michigan. And I asked her, how many bushels of, how much did you make? And she said it was 75 cents a bushel, and she could do 30 bushels a day. So, that idea that, people work this hard and they're like happy being workers, was just something that I grew up with. I have a hard time being a poet and a writer because I think I should be working. Like, I should be cooking or doing some kind of physical labor. Like, really, psychologically, I have a problem with the idea of,
you can't surrender. Like, now I'm going to write a poem and chill out a little.
Yeah.
You got that work ethic. Yeah. It's funny because if you look up work ethic in Wikipedia, about the 3rd or 4th paragraph down, it says, this could be a scam from corporate capitalism to brainwash you into making money. But it is a beautiful thing because you're driven. It's really this drive. But so you revealed right there, you went to college and you were studying journalism.
Yeah.
Where did you find this aesthetic to pursue art? Where was the crossover? Post college, or like did you grow up going to art galleries and art museums, or like, just tell us, how'd you find this aesthetic to that, what was the tipping point to kick you over into the art world?
I mean, it has to be my ex-husband, because he grew up drawing. And so when I saw his drawings, I was just like amazed and blown away with what he was working on. And, you know, and I just started saying, you know, telling him every day that he was a great artist. And I told him that every day for years, until he became a great artist. And we together went to museums. We compared his work to the people showing in museums. We kind of just wangled our way through the museums and the ideas of what was being shown. And he did go to college, to Center for Creative Studies in Detroit. And I was in college studying journalism. So, but I was creative when I was little. I mean, I was just always creative. I always had something going on.
So that leads perfectly into this. A screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process, whether you're curating or writing a poem?
That's a good question, because, you know, I wonder that too. Like, where does it come from? Like when I'm writing a poem, like, where did that come from? You know, or whatever I'm writing, I'm like, how did I get there? So it's it comes from that sort of idea that, you know, your mind and your heart are connected. That's where it comes from. I can't, you know, it's my environmental exposure to different art and writers and, you know, life. And then somehow it regurgitates into something, and then I am able to get it out onto paper, or, you know, into a poem or something that I'm writing.
That was good. Yeah. So Julie, Marcel Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. When you're curating an art show, when you're writing a poem, how much are you thinking of your audience?
Not at all. I did used to do that when I was having my art galleries. But I always had this sort of underlying goal with my art galleries to show art by artists that lived on the periphery that maybe couldn't get shows in other galleries, you know, sort of non-white artists. But then I met a bunch of white artists that really needed help. So, you know, my ex-husband's an artist that's white. So it's, you know, I ended up helping as many people as I possibly could help. So, yeah, I'm sorry. What was the question?
Well, you answered it. It was, how much are you thinking of your audience? You answered. Yeah. You said you used to, and now not so much. But
yeah,
I'm still very curious on what's the roots of your wanting to help people. Like, you have this drive, like, well, I want to help the people who aren't the privileged, rich, white art kids, you know, and then you realize, well, there are good white art kids too, so I'm going to help them too. But it seems as though there's this overall sense in Julie of helping others. Is this just like the way your parents raised you, or is it something that you came up on your own? I mean, you know what I'm asking?
Yeah. You know, if you really pay attention to history and you really pay attention to the stories of people like me, brown people, people with dark skin in society, you know, we are treated differently than white people, and not in a good way in general. And it goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. And we don't have as many opportunities as white people. I do have sort of a neurotic need to like try and help people from that place of like oppression, of like not having a chance, some people don't have chances and some people do have chances. I mean, I grew up in Detroit and the Detroit area, and there's a lot of racism there. People did not like Black people. I still have relatives that say the N-word all the time. So, I feel the inequity that's going on in the world. I feel it. I experience it quite often. I'm working now in Chinatown with a group of Chinese activists. They've felt oppression for hundreds of years here in Chinatown. They still get kicked around quite a bit here, even downtown. Now we're organizing to like change that. So my need to help people is because I need help. And I don't find help. I found a lot of people that took advantage of me, or I found people that wanted to take what I had away from me. But I definitely need help. And it is really great when you find a good group of people that you can work with that are cool and good with good intentions. But that's very rare. That's very rare.
That was good. Let's move on. That was beautiful. You really helped me understand that. And Utah Phillips is an activist and a folk singer. He says anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Well, I think it is important to have a collective mind, and to have a society that helps make rules that empower people and create a better environment for people. I think society creates rules. Unfortunately, we have a really screwed up society right now. So, yeah, you have to create your own rules right now. You're kind of on your own.
What was the motive of the cave artist? Not what Herzog or anthropologists say, but more your hunch or your guess. What was the motive of the cave artist?
I think, it's just like when I'm writing a poem. It's like, I have to do this. Like, I have to write this down. Like, I have to talk about this. I think they felt the same way. It's like they had to like depict the bison. Like they had to do it. I think it's just a matter of them being artists and being creative and being, it's just like they have to do it. I mean, all artists have to do it. They can't not do it.
It's funny, this woman at our reading group yesterday brought up the term uncontrollable urge, which is the name of a Debo song. And I was like, that's sort of what it is. It's an uncontrollable urge.
Yeah. It's an uncontrollable urge and you have to do it. And that's what happened. You can't, and the giantness of what they did, you can tell they had to do it because you can't do anything that big and that spectacular and not have that sort of like incredible motivation, like that's putting you in that place to like have to do this.
What's more important, conviction or compromise?
I'm working with a bunch of young people right now, and they don't want to compromise. They do not want, they're like, I hate that person. I want them dead. And, you know, and they don't, they're like, no, we're just going to kill that person. And I'm like, no. I'm like, no killing. I mean, if you kill somebody, then you believe me, it's not fun. It's not a good situation for anybody, really. You have to, that's last resort. It's better to compromise, because you can get a lot further with compromising. But some people, they're not going to be good at compromising, and they don't want to compromise, and they want to kill you. That's what happens. If you meet somebody that wants to kill you and is determined to kill you, you have to react.
Yeah.
So, but compromise is better.
Yeah. I like your answer. I'm always fishing. There's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right. So you've accomplished a lot in your life. Rate these 3 elements: luck, skill, and ambition. What's first, second, and third?
Ooh. Luck. And then skill. And then ambition.
Beautiful. T.S. Eliot said poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
What language? I mean, my first word that came to my head is love.
Oh, that's beautiful language.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I want to be. I don't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah.
I just want to be in love.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I'll tell you, one of my favorite answers was Abigail Charles' experimental filmmaker. I says, what language is your inner dialogue is? She goes, I wish I knew.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah.
But, you know, we all have this inner dialogue going, and you really got it, because I wasn't literally asking for English or Spanish. You got it. Love is a beautiful language. Do artists have a moral obligation?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, that's a very controversial subject with artists. Some of them totally abandon the idea that they have any moral obligation whatsoever. And then some embrace it. Yeah. So I think people should embrace it.
Yes. So George Manupelli started the Ann Arbor Film Festival 60 years ago. His mantra is ignore yourself. Jonas Mekas says there is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle and this just comes through me. So I know it's both and it depends, but your hunch on this one, is art making more self-expression, or is it more you're a vehicle for whatever technology or culture is dominant?
Could you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, it goes with the word you used a lot, environmental. So is art making more self-expression, or is it more environmental? Is it more the artist is a vehicle for whatever culture or technology is dominant?
The best art goes beyond your own world.
Yeah.
It goes beyond whatever exists around you in your environment. It's like, it's so rare to see that art. Yeah. But when you do see it, it just takes you to a place that you had no idea existed ever before. And the beauty of that idea that human beings can create something extraordinary that's like rare and special and just beyond our humanness.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's what's the most coolest thing about art, is seeing and experiencing something that, that's beyond you, beyond your friends, beyond your town, beyond your village, beyond wherever you are. And can we as humans achieve something really amazing? Yes, we can.
Yeah, your use of the word humanness really touches me. It's a word I love to use. And Martha Graham says, great artists aren't ahead of their times. They are their times.
Yeah.
And I like to say personally, great art does two things. It fucks your shit up and it says to you, I can do that. But can art making be egoless?
I had to deal with that question quite a bit. Because there is a certain level of narcissism connected to creating art. You just can't avoid it. It's just part of the process. But it is egoless in the sense that, if we go back to the cave drawings idea, someone that just has to do this thing, they have to do it.
Yeah.
So that's when it's egoless. But a lot of artists had a lot of arguments about that idea of ego connected to their art.
Well, Julie, I've asked a lot of people this question, and a lot of people say, no, art making can't be egoless. And one person said, great art is egoless.
Yeah.
And so that was beautiful. Is perception reality?
Yes. Yeah. It's like, yeah.
That's good. No, my one friend said, I said, is perception reality? He says, that's all you got.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Lewis Carroll says, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Ooh. My whole life is about believing in possible things. I should not be here with you right now. I should be probably working in the field, getting carrots and onions and green beans. But I'm here, and I've had this extraordinary life of creating art galleries and having art shows, and I did a big art festival and working with artists. So, almost every day, my life is about an alternate reality from who I really am.
It's beautiful. I love it. If you don't have dreams, your dreams don't come true. So you've sort of answered this, but tell me one major element of your creative life that's changed and one major element that stayed the same in the years you've been doing it.
I've met with a lot of artists. I've been harsh to some artists, and I just so regret that. And I feel so bad about some of the harsh treatment I gave to artists, in the sense that either I didn't show their work or I said something rude to them. Artists are, they're never in one place. They're there for a moment, but then they move to another place, and then move to another place, and they move to another place. you can't ever judge an artist from where they're at. So when somebody asked me to judge them or see, like, what do you think of this? You know, my immediate reaction might be visceral, like, okay, it's not good. But that's wrong, because they're just there for a minute. You know, the next day or the next week or the next year, they'll be in a totally different place doing something totally different. And it might be like genius beyond whatever I could ever imagine that how good it could be. So I just, you know, just learning that it takes time and it takes nurturing at every single step, even when they're bad.
Yeah.
Is something that I learned. And luckily, fortunately, I learned that early enough on in my career to be able to help artists, you know, evolve to a better place.
Yeah.
But it was a big lesson for me to learn. And I still make the mistake of, you know, somebody sent me their writing recently, and I reacted like not in a good way.
Yeah.
And I thought it was honest, but it was, they didn't react. They haven't talked to me since then. And I think about that a lot. I think about, oh, I have to talk to that person or write that person and talk to them, because I didn't mean to like alienate them.
Yeah. It's like being a film curator. I did the same thing. Someone sends me their film. I say, I can't use it right now in my program. In other words, they want you to say, your film sucks and it sucks because of this, and I'm not going to show it. But I try to say it nicely, like I can't use it now. So I called this one guy back. I know you know him. I can't think of his name. And 10 years later, I says, oh, I can show your film now. He goes, is this the Twilight Zone?
That's so funny. That's cute. That's cool.
So Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Well, my brown skin, I really tried to like use it to create power, not just for myself, but for people that look like me. And, you know, it was a very difficult road, complicated road, because I'm not from Los Angeles. I'm not from East LA. I'm from Michigan, you know, so I'm a different kind of Mexican American here in Los Angeles. But so politically, I didn't fit in really. And I still don't fit in. And it's okay. I'm a weird person, you know.
But how did you flip that into a strength then?
I just did things anyway.
I see.
I just did things anyway.
Right.
And which is kind of a weird way to like deal with that question, but that's what happened.
Right. It's not fitting in. That's a weakness became a strength by flipping it. That's what we talk about, is how do you turn a breakdown into a breakthrough? How do you turn a rejection into a redirection? You know, it's just flipping that. Anger can be a productive emotion when fill in the blank.
When you're trying to get away from your lover.
Perfect lead in. What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
I guess women, from women think in the round and men think in the linear, more of a linear direction.
Yeah. Why do women live longer than men?
Not sure I'm going to live longer, but I guess because they say women are stronger than men, and they have the babies, and they have to go through a lot of pain. So
yeah,
maybe because of the baby yep. situation.
There's a saying that goes, "You create what you resist." Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into, "You are what you hate." James Joyce says, "It's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve." And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, "Thank God I'm an atheist." So this idea of you create what you resist, or one creates what one resists. Any ideas on that thought?
So can you kind of describe what you mean about resist?
It's sort of like pushing Bob Goldthwait pushed it to an extreme. You are what you hate. It's like both Louis Buñuel and Frank Zappa were raised Roman Catholic. They sort of hated it. And James Joyce hated being raised in Dublin, but they use it for their whole career. It's what they're made of.
Oh, yeah.
What they resist is
what
persists. What they resist, that what persists. But it's just a thought, and I'm not saying.
I guess. Yeah, no, I think that is true. Here I want to be a worker. I just want to work, and I'm a writer now, and I'm had art galleries, and I used my mind to create these things that I am, but it's sort of like not where I want it to be. Yeah. If I had been working on the line still at Ford Motor Company, I would have been fine.
Yeah.
So this worker / thinker situation is a big thing for me.
Yeah. So that leads perfectly into this. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Don't marry John Bass. Don't marry him. No. I hope John doesn't see this. I'm not sure what, because I made so many mistakes. It's, the biggest thing is, being a Mexican American, growing up in America, you don't have a map. You don't have a map that your white waspy father gave you. You don't have a legacy of money and a legacy of inheritance. You don't have much. It's like you just have your grit, determination, and your attitude of hard work, which seems like a lot when you're little, but I can see now that, looking back on my life from this perspective, how hard it was for me. How did I even do everything I was able to accomplish? I mean, really, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So definitely you know, learn from history. I always tell people, look at history, and that will help you a lot.
It's good.
So that's what I would tell her.
Beautiful. Julie, can you forget to die?
Can you forget to die?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, we tend to think that death is inevitable. So it's an ironic question, but can a human actually forget to die?
Well, I do believe in energy. I mean, I do believe the energy will never die, even when you're dead.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we're all kind of in that place where we're not, we have all forgotten about dying. And we're living in that. We're living, but we're dead.
We're living in that forgetfulness. That's beautiful. I like that. How do you find peace of mind?
By working, by helping people, by doing as much as I can for cooking, writing, activism, you know, trying to help people as much as I can.
Beautiful. You're my hero, Julie. I like to hear people say that, actually articulate it. That's, you know, everybody claims we're here to make the world a better place. Well, how do you do that? By helping other people.
Yeah.
Hello, duh.
Yeah, you actually have to do it.
Yeah. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Over. Everybody knows that.
If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Oh. The Birth and Death of Julie Rico.
That's good. That's good. They want to scent, the publisher wants to scent the glue in the binding. What smell would it be?
Mushrooms?
Oh, nice. And they want to have a color ink other than black for some of the pages. What color?
Peppercorn black. Can I do peppercorn black?
Yeah, I like that. If a statue was built in your honor, where would it be displayed and what would it be made of?
I would like it to be in Mount Clemens, where I'm from, Michigan. And I would like it to be made of car parts.
Car parts. I like that. That's truly Motor City roots. I love it. So, you know, I'm going to ask you two questions now that I actually asked in your gallery probably 30 years ago there in Santa Monica, and somewhere there's videotapes of these of me asking people these questions. If you were a chair, who would you want to sit on you?
Who do I want to sit on me? I have to say, Raphael Buñuel, who's an artist that I showed, that guy is amazing. He's Luis Buñuel's son.
Oh, nice.
And I would do, Raphael. I mean, oh my God, they're so brilliant, genius people.
Oh man, that's my hero is Louis Buñuel.
Yeah.
So if you could have any artist do your portrait from any era, what artist would you like to do your portrait?
Probably Mondrian, I think. I mean, he doesn't really do portraits, but
No, that's good.
It's, yeah.
Tell me something good you never had and you never want. So it's good, you never had it, but you never want it.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I never had it. Um, a sailboat, I guess.
That's good. I'll tell you, the three answers I get the most are fame, money, and heroin.
Oh,
But
well, I tried heroin.
you know, the artist Mike Kelly had a good answer too. Tell me something good you never had and you never want. And he said, children.
Oh yeah,
That
that's
was
a good
him.
one. That's me. That should be my answer. But heroin, if I had heroin, that would be good. I tried it one time. I'm like, this is nice.
If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
You know, that's a good question because, you know, I've been beat up quite a bit in my life, like physically beat up. And I think that those experiences have left sort of an indelible mark inside of my body, you know, memory.
Yeah.
And if that happened to me, I, it, it's just another thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, and you know, you go through life and you get hit, and shit gets thrown in your face all the time. So, what do you know?
I'm glad you didn't get too grossed out by it because it's sort of like a metaphor for life in one way, and you got to plow through it if you can. So Joseph Boyce, great artist, said, make the secrets productive. Lou Welsh, another ad man poet, said, guard the secrets, constantly reveal them. But it was Thornton Wilder in 1928, he said, art is confession. Art is the secret told, but art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for 90 minutes, Julie. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this, but what is it really all about for you?
Waking people up, letting them see things that they don't recognize or understand or experience in their day-to-day lives. Really just trying to, you know, go against the grain that is what this country is about. And that's basically trying to thwart the idea of capitalism and embrace the idea of a collective social network of people. It took me a long time to figure that out because the art world is filled with capitalists. It's all run by capitalists. Like I would get these questions all the time, like, if I buy this piece of art, will it increase in value? And I had to like fight through that. Like I didn't understand it because I didn't really understand money. And And art is not about money. It's not about money. You can use it as a commodity to help the world in different ways, but it's not about capitalism. It's not about capitalism. It's not about exploiting things and getting the biggest bang for your buck for doing that thing. It's not about capitalism. So, fighting against this sort of like idea that capitalism is king in the art world is really going against the grain, because even the artists, they want to achieve a lot of money for their art. So it's just, the world is just so screwed up right now, and there's just no good thread of a social network of people understanding that we should not be focused on capitalism in the art world. We should be focused on helping people. We should create paradigms that create a better environment for the world. And, this is sort of like, I'm creating this so that I can survive and make money, and it actually undermines your idea of survival. It undermines it, because the only way to survive is by supporting each other. And this sort of like singular, like, I'm going to become this great, it's everything's me, me, me. Yeah. I just met so many artists like that, and that isn't the way it should be.
Boy, really well put, Julie, and I appreciate that. I just have a couple more questions. These are 5 quick Alan Watts questions. So just in like 2 to 3 words, just off the top of your head. Who started it all?
Started it all. You did. You did.
Are we going to make it?
No.
Where do we put it?
In you. In you.
Who's cleaning it up?
You are.
Is it serious?
No.
Well, I know the interview goes great when either I or the person tears up, and those answers were amazing. It really made me cry inside. And like my mom said, it's all right to cry, because when you get tears coming out of your eyes, you're getting toxins out of your body. besides getting emotions out, you get toxins. Last 2 questions. What's the healthiest cultural shift you see developing today?
George Floyd. Yeah. I was just like beyond, I can't even believe that even happened. To see white people out on the streets supporting Black people. What? Like, when did that happen? So, I was, that was cool, man. And
when I went on the George Floyd route in Venice, it was all young white yuppies, and I was like, well, yeah, this is pretty cool. And the cops were stopping the traffic on Lincoln so that we could march down Lincoln Boulevard. And I was like, what?
I know, yeah, all that whole, well, of course they're going to help white people, and it's just amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's what we need, is white people helping brown people, and that's never happened before.
Yeah, and the 3 Black women who started Black Lives Matter are amazing, and they're still going strong. And that's the beauty is, in like, if you listen to Angela Davis today on Amy Goodman, wow, how powerful. It's just so beautiful that people are still aware and still able to talk about this like you've done. So the last question, Julie, I really appreciate this. It's been truly enlightening for me and touching. What gives you the most optimism?
artists, some of them,
Yeah.
art, being creative. Some of them are just totally right on, and and they are doing things that will help. But again, we're really fighting a major evil in the art world, which is capitalism, and that's that just permeates every aspect of every college, every studio. So, everybody should read the book, The Dawn of Everything. That's what I say. Read that book, and then maybe your perspective will change on what's going on here.
I just wrote down the title. I'll definitely pursue it. Julie Rico, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry. You're amazing.
Well, you are too. It's been fun, and I will never forget the great days of going to Julie Rico's art openings. That established such a deep, true community in Venice and Santa Monica. I mean, always was just the greatest times of not just celebrating art, but celebrating other people. And
Yeah.
you really created a great community that won't go away.
Thank you. And I just do want to say that I actually didn't know what I was doing. And the artist, it was like being on a sled, and you're just on the sled with all the people, and you're just going down the hill. And it was like, that's what it was like. The whole thing was not like I pre-engineered the whole idea. No, it was all the artists, and we were all on the sled, and we were all just going down the hill. And that's kind of what you have to do. You have to create this, you have to work with the people around you. And
well, you helped. A couple factors that were important is you had the courage to get the sled together. The sled doesn't just automatically appear. Somebody's got to get the sled together and go, which hill are we going to slide down? And, come on. So thanks again, Julie.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. And say hi to Susie.
Hey, namaste.
Namaste.
Bye.
Bye.